I would like at this time to do a little dedication. This happens every so often. We dedicate canoes into the fleet. To introduce this idea, I've got the directors of canoeing, Catherine Babin and Aiden Pierson.
Hey! Hey!
Hi guys.
Hi. So we're here today to dedicate 2 canoes, and Ida and I just wanted to kind of talk to you some about canoes, and I guess probably tell you things that you already know. Canoes are really the heart and soul of Pathfinder. They define who we are. They're a physical part of this place. The hands that make our boats learn to love canoes here at this camp. The cedar and the ash that go into these canoes comes from the shorelines of Algonquin Park and around the park. And because of that, one of the ways that we can keep members of the Pathfinder family with us and on the trail with us and tripping with us is by naming a boat after them.
Catherine and I like to say that we have the best job on the island because we work in a living museum. Every one of our canoes is very special to not only the staffmen that own those canoes or that have them for the summer, but to each and every one of you who get to paddle them around all over the lakes of Algonquin. These boats take us to places where, most of us have not been, and then if you get to go back, you get to appreciate that place again for a big understanding of what it took to get there. And these are the vessels that get us there. And when I was a camper, the canoes were not quite, the fleet wasn't in the shape that it is in now. And one of the big parts of that, one of the big reasons is Slads. And I would like Slads to come up and do a little talking on that note.
Thank you, guys. We're very lucky to have so many talented paddlers here on the staff, and very lucky to have Aiden and Catherine running the canoeing program. And so what I'd like to do now is let you guys know about the dedication of these 2 canoes into the fleet. This is the 34 boat. It's named for Samuel James Pierson. And this 9-footer was also made to dedicate into the fleet this year. It was to be brought in to pair up with the George Leader House, which is the baby blue canoe. And this is the deep blue canoe, which is called the Sammy Pierson. So I want to tell you guys a little bit about why these canoes are named for Samuel Pierson, and to put that in the bigger context of our fleet. We've got 4 dozen trip canoes, and then, as you know, many other smaller canoes, many Royal X boats, some Kevlar boats and whatnot. There's personals down there. But the heart and soul is really the 4 dozen 16-foot wood canvas trip canoes. And as you know, most of those are named for people that have a connection to Pathfinder history. And some are named for people whose families knew of their affection for Pathfinder and dedicated or gave us a boat to dedicate to those people. So you got all kinds of people, from Chief Norton and Amy Purdy to Jake and Jerry, who ran the Brent store, to Carl Dench's dad, Klaus Dench, to Samuel T. Hubbard, who's George's and Tom's grandfather, and a host of others. Right? Every one of the named boats represents someone who had a connection to, and in most cases, a big impact on Camp Pathfinder. The Sammy, the 9-footer, was made by Jack Hurley, who is our canoe maker, and who first came to camp in 1960 and loved the camp and the park so much that he decided to make a career of building canoes. He co-owned Algonquin Outfitters for a period of time and then went solely into the canoe business and operates out of a shop in Dwight, Ontario, just outside the park. He also sent his sons Alex and Brent here, who became senior headmen and went on to careers both in teaching and outdoor leadership. The Sam Pierson, the 9-footer, has been given to the camp with support from Jack and Peggy Hurley, Glenn and Wyatt Arthurs, and myself and Leslie Sled. And we give this 9-footer in the spirit of Sammy Pierson, a little boy who tragically lost his life last summer at about this time, long before he was old enough to consider coming to Camp Pathfinder. He was part of a family that loved the camp. His father, uncle, attended the camp and worked here for many, many years, and his grandparents were huge supporters of Camp Pathfinder. They're part of a Rochester tradition of Pathfinder people. It goes way, way back. Sammy was involved at a very young age in an accident, and from that he received injuries that he could not survive. It's a tragic story. But it's not a tragic life, because Sammy was happy, loved, cared for, and engaged with the world every day of his life. And he never knew sadness or loneliness or upset. He never knew failure, only victory. And we miss him terribly. But the little boy that we knew lives on in a boy's canoe, a canoe truly for young boys at the camp to paddle and enjoy. The Samuel James Pierson was built by Graham England at his canoe works in Fergus, Ontario. Graham was on the staff here at Camp Pathfinder, was considered by many the best second man ever to work here, and also, of course, led trips for Pathfinder. He came here later in life after he retired from school teaching in Smiths Falls, Ontario, to start the kind of repair work that Warren has taken up so brilliantly with the canoe shop, and that was in the mid-2000s. You know, you used to paddle in from a trip with a canoe that had a leak or a cracked gunnel or a busted seat, and if you were going out on a trip the next day, there was no doubt that Graham would have your boat ready for you the next morning. It was a phenomenal accomplishment here at Pathfinder, to say the least. Graham used Jack Hurley's form, that is the form that we use exclusively to make our trip canoes, and over the winter built the Samuel Pierson, so that Samuel lives at camp into infinity, both as a young boy and also his spirit travels through the park in a way that he himself won't be able to do. So we think it's highly fitting that both canoes bear his name. This canoe was purchased by the camp and dedicated by Glenn and myself. I want to read you guys just a little bit of the label that Sammy's parents, Jake and Carrie Pierson, provided so that we can label and display this canoe for this first day of second half and for the alumni reunion at the end of August. The dedication of the Sammy Pierson and the Samuel James Pierson means a lot to Carrie, me, and our son John. That's Sammy's older brother. Despite having never set foot on the island, Sammy embodied the Pathfinder spirit. Sammy loved every minute of the day, embraced every bit of life. Sammy almost always had a smile and a hug to share with others. He taught me a lot, just as my son, John, and my wife, Carrie, have. You guys have to read this to really appreciate it, and I'll have it labeled in the morning before we leave to head home from first half. But there's a family back in Rochester that, despite the fact that they're grieving that they lost their child, is so elated that the camp cares about them and that Sammy's memory lives on through canoes that themselves live on into the future. So thank you for being part of this moment. These canoes are officially brought into the fleet, and I look forward to seeing you guys paddling them in future summers.